What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Draft Hub. Today, we are going to be going to continue our 7 round team mock drafts. Today, we are taking a look at the New York Jets, my New York Jets, here at number 2 overall. Yesterday, we did the Las Vegas Raiders. I think we did a pretty dang good job. Today, we are going to try and spearhead this massive stripped down rebuild that is the New York Jets. Now, as a Jets fan myself, there's a lot that I could say. Let's just keep it simple and just say that the Jets could probably use an upgrade on pretty much every area of their roster except probably offensive line, if you could believe that or not. But yes, the New York Jets are a team that, was basically a laughing stock this entire season. They're in desperate need of a quarterback. They're in desperate need of some secondary reinforcements, some linebackers, some defensive linemen, whatever it may be. We need it. So we're going to dive into that today. Now, if you are new to this, obviously, if you're a Jet fan, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. I myself am a Jet fan, and I'm going to be continuing this great series until we are done with all 32 teams. And not only that, I upload draft content, NFL content, college football content, transfer portal, anything that really has to do with football, you name it. I upload it at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time every single day. I do not miss an upload. So without further delay, let's get into it. So we're going to start this draft here. And regardless of who is taken number 1 overall, so it is Fernando Mendoza. I'm kind of glad because some people don't listen to the monologue before, and that's fine. I get it. But some people are just quick to assume that, there's a player on the board and I don't take him. It's usually for a specific reason. So yesterday we took Fernando Mendoza, number 1 overall. So we're going to try our best in this series to not duplicate as many players. So at number 2 overall here, I've seen that Jets fans are very, very torn. There's a lot of different ways that you can go. So really, for the sake of the mock draft itself, the way that I'm leaning on going towards is drafting Dante Moore, number 2 overall. The reason being is, to me, through free agency, really your best option is Malik Willis, right? Through trade, the Jets do have 5 first-round picks over the next 2 years. You could certainly package many of those picks and get a premium quarterback. But I don't know if first off, I don't really know if any elite quarterback is going to want to play for the New York Jets right now. And also, that's kind of irresponsible on the front office to part ways with that much draft capital, because really, let's just put this into perspective. Let's say that the Jets go out and trade 3 first-round picks plus for Joe Burrow, right? Now, where does that leave the New York Jets in terms of roster reconstruction? Now you just have a really shitty roster with Joe Burrow on it. So in my eyes, I don't think it makes sense. This regime, I see a lot of people also saying, oh, trade back in the first round here and draft a quarterback in 2027. If you think that this regime is lasting another year without a quarterback, you are sadly mistaken. This is when this regime is going to take a quarterback. I don't really know. Some people live in a fantasy world where they don't think that people's jobs are on the line here. But yeah, Aaron Glenn and Darren Moogie are probably already fighting for their jobs going into the season. They have to make it work. Moogie will probably get 1 more year if it doesn't work in 2026. But yes, they do have to draft a quarterback. And with Fernando Mendoza off the board, he still hasn't declared yet, but I do think it would be silly if Dante Moore didn't declare, because he is going to be a top 5 pick. He's going to be the top 3 pick, really, because the top 3 teams need quarterback help. So he's going to be selected inside the top 3. Now, I've seen a lot of conflicting reports that he's not going to declare because he doesn't want to be a New York Jet. And believe me, I understand. But here in this mock draft, we're going to do the smart thing. We're going to do the responsible thing. And we are going to draft a quarterback with a super high ceiling in Dante Moore. Some people love him. Some people hate him. I don't really understand the hate for Dante Moore. I do get that he is a little green for the most part. But either way, I think that he's a quarterback that you could very much develop at the NFL level. I know people are going to turn around and say, well, the Jets don't develop people at the NFL level. And, that's true as well. But all right, let's take a look at what we have here. So really what I usually like to do at number 16 overall is I like to assess the trade down scenario here, because there is quite a big gap here between 44 and 103 that I would absolutely love to close. And the Pittsburgh Steelers do want to trade up here. Let's see who else, just for the hell of it. You have the Chargers as well, the Rams, the Patriots. All right, so you got some teams that aren't really that far. I'm very in the idea in the business of trading down a few spots to gain a day two pick. So let's just take a look at the board before we make any decisions here. Let's look at the board. The board could be thinned out a little bit. So I'm loving a lot of these prospects here. I think Denzel Boston makes a lot of sense for the Jets. I love Avion Terrell. That's really one of the big reasons why I'm considering not trading back here, because Terrell would make just so much sense for the Jets. And I really do think that if Aaron Glenn is here for the long term, he's going to be looking for a cornerback to develop into, a player that kind of emulates his type of play. So I think we could safely trade down a little bit here and reassess. So let's just take a look at the cornerback board here. Just so, okay. All right. So Colton Hood is still here. Yeah, I think I'd be Keith Abney is still here. All right. I am pretty okay with trading back here and acquiring a late day two pick. I think 76 would make a lot of sense here. Let's see. This trade will be accepted. Yeah, I think trading down 5 spots and acquiring something along those lines is pretty realistic for the most part. Maybe we could even throw in, I don't really think it's necessary, but we could even throw in, a back end pick as well. But I think a third, yeah, all right, a third and probably a seventh would probably suffice for the most part. Yeah, we're going to make this trade here. So the Jets are going to move back. We're going to resume the draft and we're going to assess what exactly happened. So, yes. All right. Avion Terrell did go, but I think Colton Hood makes a lot of sense for the New York Jets as well. And I think that's exactly what we're going to go with here. I'm not going to wait to attack this secondary. The fact of the matter is the New York Jets had 0 interceptions, something that will never ever be broken. Let's put that into perspective. The New York Jets went an entire season with having 0 interceptions. And I mean, they didn't even come close. There wasn't a dropped interception. There wasn't a tipped ball. There was nothing. They generated absolutely nothing. You need playmakers in the secondary. And Colton Hood is a player that I think makes a lot of sense for this New York Jets team. I think the Jets really, a lot of people say the offense needs to be built up, and that may be true, but the offensive line is there. Brees Hall, if he doesn't sign a long-term extension, is probably going to get franchise tagged. You still have Garrett Wilson. You have wide receivers that you could add in day 2 of this draft class. I think you have to attack the defense really, really hard in the early parts of this draft. So we're going to take Colton Hood. We're going to get our cornerback one in the future, especially after trading Sauce Gardner. You know that you have to come back and you have to make a selection in the secondary pretty early on in this draft class. So now we do have the number 33 overall pick. And I do think that it goes based off of a strength of schedule. So the Jets get the 33rd overall pick. So this is what we're looking at here. And man, there are some unbelievable options here. CJ Allen is a player that I think would make a ton of sense here. Elijah Surratt. Also, Amari Washington is probably the pick that I'm going to make here. I love CJ Allen. I really wish I can get both players here. We do have number 44. So it could be possible that someone like Amari Washington falls to 44. Let's just take a look at the other defensive linemen that are here. Yeah, I'm not really too comfortable with letting someone like Amari Washington slide further than that. An incredible season. CJ Allen just is so good for the Jets at number 33. But I think you have to attack the defensive line. I mean, really, the defensive line outside of Jawan Briggs was pretty pitiful this year. Let's just take a look at the edge rushers as well, because that is a sneaky need for the Jets as well. All right, I'm not really in love with these options. I'm probably circling someone like Akeem Mesidor around that 76 spot. And if he's not there, we could always look at a Derek Moore or even an Anthony Lucas or a Zion Young. I doubt that those guys will be there, but those are players that would make a lot of sense. So at 33, I think we are going to take a defensive lineman here. And I wish CJ Allen, I wish we had to pick a little bit closer. You never know. He might still fall, but I'm going to take Amari Washington here. Just exactly what the Jets need. I know that a lot of people are going to be pissed that I'm basically just replacing Quinnen Williams and Sauce Gardner, but it's absolutely necessary. And Amari Washington is an incredibly disruptive defensive tackle, a fantastic run stopper. And if you watched any Jet football this year, which I'm assuming you all did because you're all Jets fans watching this, you know that the Jets absolutely need a run stuffer in the middle of their defensive line. Not only that, he brings a lot as a pass rusher as well. 6'3", 330 pounds. He's someone that is super supremely athletic for his size as well. I think he's going to be a true difference maker on the defensive line at the NFL level, and I think this makes a lot of sense for the Jets here. So we're going to take him at number 33, and we're going to see what we could conjure up here at number 44. So I'm still not really okay. All right, now there's some decisions to be made here because Zion Young is still on the board. The Jets do need an edge rusher. Let's take a look at the wide receivers that are on the board before we go too crazy because yeah, all right. So I think I'm going to make yeah, I know the decision that I'm going to make here at number 44. I love what Jacoby Lane can bring to the table for the New York Jets here because Garrett Wilson is a player that, and I'm sure Jets fans could agree with me, is just so influential and is just such a big part of the Jets offense. But when it comes to him going up against bigger, stronger corners, he really does get shut down quite a bit. I mean, they were time and time. I know he finished the season what around October 12th was the last game that he played for the Jets this year, but time and time again against those bigger, stronger corners or those press guys, he really struggled. He's someone that's, not the strongest wide receiver. If we can get him more in the slot in 2026 and have more of a boundary threat, I think it would make a lot of sense. So you have Adonai Mitchell who has the size and can play on the boundary. Get another guy who has the size that could win 50-50 balls down the field as well. I think Jacoby Lane would make a lot of sense for this New York Jets team. He brings a ton of athleticism. He brings great contested catchability. Let's just, before we make this selection, I always kind of want to, Emmanuel Pregnone makes a lot of sense as well because the Jets definitely do need a guard at some point in this draft. Let's just take a look at some of the other problematic areas for the Jets. Safety is another big need. Oh, man, this is just, this is a tough selection here at 44. I'm almost inclined to trade down just to kind of thin out the board itself. Edge, Zion Young. I'm a huge fan of Zion Young. Akeem Mesidor is still here. He's probably not going to be here around that pick number 76 mark. What else did I want to check on? We did wide receiver. Let's take a look at linebacker just for shits and giggles again as well. Yeah, I'm okay with this kind of thinning out. There are players down the board that I think would make a lot of sense for the New York Jets at some point. I'm not really too inclined to take some of these guys. Josiah Trotter is a player that I think would be absolutely great for the New York Jets as well. We're going to hold off on that for now, though. So, yeah, I'm comfortable with taking Jacoby Lane at this point. Again, just a boundary guy that's going to be able to win on all three levels of the defense and really open up the offense for the Jets. So I know that they have John Mechie. I know that they have Adonai Mitchell and Garrett Wilson, but you do need another boundary threat to really free up Garrett Wilson more. So we're going to take Jacoby Lane at number 44. So now we have to wait until 76. So let's just take a look before we get to 76. We'll take a look at the picks that we did make. So Dante Moore, Colton Hood, Amari Washington, and Jacoby Lane. I'm really liking the way that this is filling out so far. So now we have closed the gap between 44 and 103. We have pick number 76 after a slight trade down with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's take a look at what we can come up with here. So yeah, well, this pick isn't going to happen because Trinidad Chambliss is going back to school, but he is a player that is very, very interesting going forward. Linebacker, let's just look at that one more time. Jacob Rodriguez, man, I think he'd be so good. That's a tough one, though. Man, I'm kind of really looking more towards a Kyle Lewis around the, pick number 103. I think that would make a lot of sense. Let's go to edge. Edge is another big time need for the Jets. The fact of the matter is you're really not going to yeah, we're going to hold off on that as well. There are a couple guys down the board that I think make a lot of sense here. So really, you're not going to be able to fill every single need in the draft. I hope people know that. So that's we're not trying to do that. We're just trying to get the best players that we possibly can at positions of need. So, we looked at edge. We looked at, let's take a look at the interior of the offensive line. Keelan Rutledge, I think we could hold off on that. I'm a huge fan of Keelan Rutledge in this draft class. I think he's one of the better guards in this class. All right, we'll hold off on that. We are going to let's look at the edge and then we will look at safety as well cuz safety is a big time need for the New York Jets as well. So, let's look at safety. We'll do that first. And Emmanuel McNeil Warren is still here, man. And that's just a player that I cannot pass up at this point. I don't think true to what it is for what it's worth. I don't think someone like Emmanuel McNeil Warren is going to be here at pick number 76. But if he is here in this mock draft, it'll just be irresponsible of me not to take him. The Jets had some pretty abysmal safety play this year, or really just the whole entire secondary. And Emmanuel McNeil Warren is a player that can just be deployed everywhere in the defense on the defense. He could play in the box, he could play in the slot. He's a fantastic overall player. He really is. And Toledo has very quietly over the past few years developed quite the defensive talent. You think of Quinyon Mitchell 2 years ago, you think of Darius Alexander last year as well. And Emmanuel McNeil Warren is a player that some people have been quite high on for quite some time. 6'3, 210 pounds, comes with an enormous size, enormous range, great ball skills. I think this would be a very welcome addition to the secondary here for the New York Jets. We're going to take him here at number 76. That's a found pick for the most part because we didn't have it originally. So why not take a player of Emmanuel McNeil Warren's caliber at that pick? So now we're at pick number 103. And I think I'm going to look towards either the interior, the offensive line at this pick, or maybe we'll go to the edge. So Keelan Rutledge is still here at this point. We do have another massive gap that we could potentially close up here. If we can get like 107 and that's a little too rich for our blood here. I don't think that we're going to get maybe something along those lines just to kind of close that gap. Let's see. Could we get 126 and 146 for 103? I'm really trying to stockpile some of these picks here at this point. I'm really trying to add talent to this. Nah, we're going to stick and pick here. I don't really think it makes a lot of sense. Let's see. Let's take a look at the edge rushers here. That's kind of what I want to look at here. Malachi Lawrence is still on the board. That's probably what we're going to go with here. I do want to get, admittedly, I want to get a defensive end that's a little bit more well-rounded than Malachi Lawrence, because Lawrence is someone that is such a great pass rusher, but really not developed fully as a run defender. Maybe we will hold off on that. Let's take a look at some of the other guys down the board. Jack Pyburn is a player that's really good. All right. I think we might be strong-armed into taking someone right here. Damon Wilson is a player that's really, really good as well. Might be going back to school, though, so I'm going to kind of hold off on that. I think Lawrence might be the move here at 103. We just have such a long gap before we make another pick, so it's going to be tough. Maybe interior offensive line makes a lot of sense. Chase Basantis being here at number 103 kind of makes me a little inclined to take him as well. John Simpson is a free agent. Elijah Vera Tucker is a free agent. I do think the Jets do bring one of those guys back, and if they do, then essentially the extension of Josh Myers means that Joe Tippmann is probably going to play right guard. So maybe we'll hold off on interior of the offensive line until later on, and we will draft an edge rusher because we really do need an edge rusher. It's very clear. We're going to take Malachi Lawrence, just a really influential player for UCF Knights, just someone that I think really needs to develop a little bit more as a complete edge rusher. But for now, as someone that can be a even front defensive end, he's really, really strong. He's a very, very good pass rusher. He's going to generate pressure. And really, this Jets team outside of Will McDonald just really didn't bring too much pressure at all for the most part. And Will McDonald is a player that tends to disappear. He'll have 4 sacks in a game, and then you won't hear from him again for the rest of the season. So that kind of inconsistency really doesn't do anything good for me, to be quite honest with you. So now we're sitting at 176. Let's look at a recap here. Just very quickly, we got Dante Moore, Colton Hood, Amari Washington, Jacoby Lane, Emmanuel McNeil Warren, and Malachi Lawrence. So let's take a look at what else that we could conjure up here. Running back might be a big time need. We still have to take a linebacker. Let's take a couple linebackers. Oh, and Kyle Lewis is still here, and that's the player that I'm going to take. Kyle Lewis, really, really, Pitt had very quietly one of the best linebacking cores in the nation this past year, led by Rasheem Biles, who's probably going to transfer to Ohio State, and Kyle Lewis. Lewis is more of the coverage specialist for the most part out of the two. And again, Jets linebackers were absolutely horrible in coverage this past year. So Lewis, I think, would be a really nice addition to this defense. A little bit undersized, 6'1", 220 pounds, but for the way that the NFL has been moving, you're looking more towards those athletic coverage type of linebackers as opposed to those 6'5", 260-pound Brian Urlacher. So we're going to take Kyle Lewis here. I think he'd be a really nice addition. Oh, and we have another pick right here too. So even better. I didn't even realize that. I think running back, I said before, is a little bit of an important position. Let's load up a little bit on some other positions. So interior of the offensive line is a position that I think needs to be upgraded. Davion Carter is someone we could probably add a little bit later. Same thing with Fernando Carmona. So we'll hold off on interior of the offensive line. Man, I think the Jets, yeah, I mean, they did extend Jeremy Ruckert, which in my opinion kind of sucks because I would have loved to not, extend him. I think they could have found a better tight end in the draft. Maybe we'll add another wide receiver at this point. I'm not in love. Caleb Douglas is a really nice player here. There are a couple really nice. Reggie Virgil had a really nice season for Texas Tech as well. Colin Lacey. All right, so we got some options here, but again, we don't have to take these guys right this second. Let's take a look at what could help us more right now. Terrion Stewart is a really exciting running back as well. I think we're going to have to continue to add to the defensive side of the ball, though. Let's take a look at the defensive line. Who could we add here? Grayson Halton is a player that makes a lot of sense. That is going to really, whereas your Amari Washington is going to be your, run stuffer who can generate pressure. And you have your Jawan Briggs, who's a really, really strong athlete and can generate a lot of pressure as more of your three tech defensive tackle. I think Grayson Halton could be a really nice rotational defensive tackle for the New York Jets, that he comes in and he's just pure pass rush. Brendan Cleveland makes a lot of sense here at this point too, but Halton is a player that I'm a really, really big fan of. Zane Durant is another player that kind of fell far in this draft class, but another player that I think could be a sneaky day three pick. But I'm going to take Halton. I love the pass rush upside. He's also someone at 285 pounds that could even play defensive end at the NFL level in an even front. So that's another thing too. If this regime is looking to develop athletes on the defensive line like they did with Jawan Briggs, then Grayson Halton could be a nice little pet project for this defense. So give me Grayson Halton here at number 178. We're going to continue to put bodies on the defensive side of the ball. I know some people might really want to add more offensive players, and I get that, but truly the Jets really do need to bolster up the defensive side. But we're going to look at the offensive side right here. I do think adding a guard at this point would make a lot of sense. And there are a couple guys, like I mentioned before, Fernando Carmona is a player that I think could be a really nice steal on day three. Davion Carter is a little undersized, so I think we're going to go with more Carmona. Carmona is a player that I've liked quite a bit. I think he's in my top 10 positional rankings. I believe I have him as my 8th or ninth ranked guard in the entire draft class. I don't think that this 282nd rank is truly, how do I put this? I don't think that that's indicative of his actual talent. Just a really strong overall player in his career for Arkansas. Had a really great 2023. He's someone that is just kind of well-rounded, and I think is someone that could be a little bit more developed. I mean, look at the experience that he has. You're looking at someone with over 2,300 offensive snaps in his career, just giving up 8 sacks from the guard position as well. So obviously, 2023 was his best season. Good run blocker, and really that's kind of what the Jets need up the middle as well. I'm going to take Fernando Carmona here as kind of like a backup, rotational interior offensive lineman, just in case the Jets don't wind up signing a Elijah Vera Tucker back or a John Simpson. I think they'd be foolish to not bring back John Simpson, but we'll see what happens. Let's add to the secondary here. We got a few more picks left. Let's keep adding bodies to the secondary. Ooh, Josh Moten is still here, and Josh Moten is a player that I've been high on for a very long time. I think he is. I mean, for when he was at Marshall, he was fantastic. Followed it up with another really good season under Charles Huff at Southern Miss. Just a really exciting player. He was someone that got a lot of buzz in the transfer portal last year and just kind of followed his coach to Southern Miss, where he could have went to Power 4 schools and boosted his draft stock. But Moten is a true sleeper in this draft class. Great ball skills coming off of a season 2 years ago. He had 5 interceptions. I believe he had 2 or 3 this year as well. Let's take a look at his numbers. Let's see. What does it say here? He had 5 interceptions again this past year as well. Yeah. Someone that gave up a little bit too much in coverage, I'd say, but as a ball hawk, where the Jets need playmakers on the defensive side, he is certainly a playmaker. We're going to take Josh Moten here at number 212. Rounding out this draft here, we have a couple more picks left. Let's take a look on the wide receiver end here. We'll take a wide receiver at this point. A couple guys that I think are exciting players here. Barian Brown comes with a ton of speed. Lewis Bond is a really nice gadgety type of wide receiver. Squirrel White as well. Deshaun Stribling Trevor Pena. Yeah, you know what? We're actually going to kind of pass on that for now. I think with the last pick, we'll be able to take someone that's Jalen Walt Hall is a player that I like quite a bit. So, all right, we'll hold off on that. We'll add we'll probably add a running back at this point. I do think it's kind of sort of uh, not in love with these. Oh, I do like Kentrell Bullock a lot, but the Jets do have Braylon Allen. I think people are forgetting about that. All right, we don't need to add someone there. We could hold off on that. Let's take a look at edge. I'm just really trying to think of some other positions that are really thin. Eric O'Neill is a player I like a lot. I did mention Jack Pyburn before. Patrick Payton is a player that has kind of fallen off for the most part. I'm just kind of looking for more bodies to add to this team. Jalen Catalon, if he wasn't 25 years old, that's a player that I would definitely be thinking about bringing in. All right, Jalen Husky is here at number 218. And let me say this. I don't think Jalen Husky is a 218 overall player. Yeah, I think he's fantastic. I think he's a top 50 talent in this draft class. But since he's here at 218, we're going to add him. We're going to keep adding incredible bodies to this secondary. And then with our last pick, we're probably going to add a wide receiver or a tight end, something like that. And I think that this is going to end a very, very solid mock draft for us. So let's take a look at the wide receivers here. Squirrel White, Hank Beatty is a player as well. Colin Lacey. Man, I think I just want to add, I think I'm going to add Lewis Bond here. Bond again is a player that I said that's very gadgety, coming off of a really. I don't think he scored a touchdown this year. No, he did one, but he had almost 1,000 receiving yards on 88 catches as well. Yeah, a really solid player, very gadgety, forces a lot of missed tackles as well. Someone that if you get the ball in his hand in the open field, he's going to be really, really good. I know that the Jets do have Isaiah Williams as someone who probably should have been all pro as a returner, but Lewis Bond also has a ton of upside as a special teamer as well. So that's what we're going to take to end our mock draft here. So we're going to take Lewis Bond with our last pick, and then we're going to see what our grade looks like. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look at it one more time. At number two overall, we took our new franchise quarterback in Dante Moore. We traded pick number 16 to get 21, 76, and 273. Then we took Colton Hood at 21. At 33, we took Amari Washington. At 44, we took Jacoby Lane. 76, we took Emmanuel McNeil Warren. 103, we took Malachi Lawrence. At 175, we took Kyle Lewis. At 178, we took Grayson Halton. 204, we took Fernando Carmona. 211, we took Josh Moten. 218, we took Jalen Husky. And we rounded off our 7 round mock draft with taking Lewis Bond out of Boston College. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for watching today. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope I see you in the next one.